Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Thursday, January the 5th, and welcome to our commentary. Well, I'll get to the speaker or the vote for the speaker in a minute, but I just want to talk about a couple of other things that happened here in the last hour or so. There is going to be a new senator from the state of Michigan because the incumbent senator, I think her name is Stabenow. I believe she was elected in 2012 or 2006. I think 2012. She was reelected in 2018, and she's not going to be seeking reelection in 2024. She just made that announcement. Now, that is very good news for the Republicans, especially a Republican by the name of John James, who is a wonderful African American Republican in Michigan, military veteran, just a super campaigner. And he lost this seat to Miss Stabenow and then later to the other senator. He's lost the last two Senate races there, but by margins that are really small. I mean, within less than a point. So I would think that he's going to be the candidate, and I sure hope it's him because he's going to make one heck of a good senator. So that's big. And the one less incumbent running for reelection in 2024. That's good news for the GOP with respect to that seat. The other story that we saw here in the last hour or so is that President Biden is going to El Paso, I guess tomorrow. He's on his way to Mexico City, and he's going to be stopping in El Paso. And he said some things today about some border policies and so on. I tried to listen to it, and I frankly didn't hear anything worthwhile or anything new or anything consequential. Then Secretary Mayorkas had another conference later, and he went into a few more details. And I'm going to have to study what he said. But let me give you my reaction to this whole thing, and that is that nothing's going to change because the problem is that they terminated the one policy that was at least keeping the border under some kind of control. And that policy was Remain in Mexico. Remain in Mexico was very effective to hold back the number of people because it basically said you have to wait in Mexico before you come to the United States. Right now, I just saw a story a couple of days ago, we've got like 2.3 million cases. Maybe it's more than that. I saw that particular story, but that's over 2 million cases that are on hold, meaning all of those people have not had a chance to see the judge yet. So we keep adding more people to the list. Well, that's got to stop. I think the only solution is Remain in Mexico or something more drastic, like saying we're going to close the border for the next 6 months, and there's not going to be any asylum or whatever entry into the country other than obviously legal entry, commercial entry, or whatever, humanitarian cases or whatever. That is, I think, the only solution. The situation is so out of control. The situation is so crazy at the moment that to me is the only solution that I see for this problem. So what can I tell you? What can I tell you? The mess on the border is just getting messier all the time. Let's talk about the speaker battle. Look, I think he's down to number 9 right now. They're counting now number 9. Hopefully, number 9 is the lucky number for Mr. McCarthy, but it hasn't gone well in the first 8. The numbers are not changing. So I think 9 is probably going to be the end of it. And then they're just going to have to open it up. Who is going to become the speaker? I don't know. I know that Jim Jordan doesn't want to be the speaker. He could probably win, but he's not going to be the speaker. One of the candidates, Byron Donalds, the gentleman from Florida, he's only been in the Congress for one term. So how can you think of putting somebody as speaker who's only been there for such a short time? He's a very interesting figure, but I don't think that you're going to put somebody there who hasn't had any kind of experience. By the way, speaking of Mr. Byron Donalds, who's an African-American Republican from Florida, I thought the remarks by Representative Cori Bush from St. Louis, when she sent out a Twitter yesterday, basically saying that Mr. Donalds is a prop, a black man, I guess, who supports white supremacy or something like that. I thought her tweet was so outrageous that somebody in the Democrat caucus should have come out and publicly criticized her, but they don't do that over at the Democrat caucus, I guess. So back to Speaker McCarthy. I think this is probably it for him if he doesn't get in tonight. Probably in tonight. So I'm not going to have that number for you or that final tally for you. But if he doesn't get it tonight, I have a feeling that it's not going to work out well for Mr. McCarthy, and somebody else is going to have to get in. I think probably if I had to bet a name, it would be Steve Scalise of Louisiana. I think he's probably the one who could maybe get the numbers necessary and hopefully get them very quickly so that we can start doing business in this Congress. Have you been following the Twitter files that are coming out? Look, one of the reasons that we got to get this Congress going is that there has to be an investigation of exactly what the FBI was doing, what exactly these organizations were doing with Twitter. You can say that Twitter was just cooperating, but why was the FBI involved anyway in this kind of a process? What was the FBI doing talking to Twitter about information that had something to do with the election? That I think is absolutely unacceptable, and we got to get to the bottom of that. And I know that there are some whistleblowers who are going to be appearing before Congress pretty soon, but we got to get to the bottom of this. This is not a good sign. Not a good sign when we got the FBI basically working with a social media company to determine what information the American people see. I just don't like that. I just don't like that, and I think we need to get to the bottom of it. Here's something that I saw too that may be an indication of what kind of an economy we're going to have next year. Mortgage applications or demand for mortgages is at its lowest level since 1996. So what that means is that people are not applying for mortgages, and that's not a good sign, because usually the applying for mortgages is an indication that people are making offers on properties and buying them. So that could be a sign that the housing industry could be in for a little slowdown. Now, here in the Dallas area and the North Texas area, that isn't quite as bad as it is in other parts of the country. So you always have to understand, when you look at the economy, particularly housing and manufacturing and economic activity in general, it's some regions are better than others. And here in North Texas, we're doing better than most other regions in the country. But this kind of a drop in mortgage demand, if you will, is not something good for the American economy. Not good at all. Well, we're going to leave you today with a little bit of On This Day in History. On this day in 1920, so that would make it 103 years ago. 103 years ago, the Boston Red Sox sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees. The owner of the Red Sox, I guess, needed the money or whatever. And at the time, of course, Babe Ruth was not the player that he became. Babe Ruth at the time was actually a pitcher for the Red Sox. He was a left-handed pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. And they sold him to the Yankees. They needed the money, so the Yankees got him. And the first thing they did, they turned him into a right fielder. And then he started hitting home runs and became the baseball personality of the 20th century that we know. I should add that Babe Ruth was purchased just at the right time. And what I mean by that is that that's about the time that they built the new Yankee Stadium, which the Yankees opened, I think, in 22 or 23. So the Yankees had a brand new stadium, a guy hitting home runs, and a team winning championships. So, yeah, Babe Ruth became the player. In so many ways, he was really the player who saved baseball, or saved the economy of baseball, because there had been a terrible scandal with the White Sox in 1917, 1918, where there had been some, mafia involvement or, criminal elements who were paying players not to play and all that kind of thing. And that took a real beating on the business of baseball. So a guy like Babe Ruth came into the scene. He energized the game of baseball. And then all of a sudden, people starting buying tickets because they wanted to see Babe Ruth play. And that's really what turned it around. What turned it around for Major League Baseball. And then all of a sudden, the business of baseball was doing just great. And people were selling, lots of teams were selling tickets once again to go to baseball games. But it was Babe Ruth who was at the forefront of that baseball renaissance of the 1920s. So the Babe became a Yankee on this day in 1920. Here's a little trivia question. The Babe Ruth did not finish his career with the Yankees. He wanted to manage, and the club would not let him manage the team. So he played one more season after having been with the Yankees. He played one more season with the Boston Braves, the team that is now in Atlanta. And that's where he hit his last home run, with the Boston Braves. But of course, his career, the greatness of his career, came as a Yankee, and is without question. And no way you can say this any other way. You know, Babe Ruth was the greatest character in baseball history, and really the man who saved the game from the scandal of 1918, 1919. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and I don't know if we have a new speaker. I hope we do, but I think it's either going to be McCarthy or it's going to be something else. We're getting to that point right now where a new name may have to surface to bring this to an end. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.